Welcome to Popternative, where we dive into topical discussions from the worlds of pop culture, social media, and sports. Here is your host, Peter Remoliotis, a.k.a. PD Beats.
Hello and welcome to the Popternative Podcast. This is the podcast where we have digital discussions in the worlds of pop culture, social media, sports, and of course hockey. Couple of weeks, the NHL 2018 NHL entry draft will be in Dallas, Texas. And this week, 104 players had the chance to participate in Buffalo in the 2018 NHL Combine, where they did a lot of fitness tests and got to meet NHL teams. And I am with one of those players that was part of the Combine. We are with University of Wisconsin commit forward Jack Gorniak. Jack, welcome to Popternative.
How's it going? I'm doing good. How are you?
Pretty good. I'm doing well. Got back from the big Combine. Talk a little bit about it. How was it? Was it a lot more intense than you expected? Did you enjoy it? Talk a little bit about your experience.
Yeah, it was a fun time. There was a lot more free time than I was expecting because each person had like their individual schedule. Mm-hmm. So it's just based off how many interviews you had, which is the team schedule that. But the interviews weren't too bad. They're about 10 to 20 minutes, and they're kind of spread out throughout the day. So it wasn't as stressful as I thought. After you did one, it was kind of, you got the hang of it, and then the test went pretty good too. What
were some of the questions that were kind of the questions that you got like in almost every interview? And then were there kind of some interesting questions? I read something online. There were some like Fortnite questions.
Right, yeah. One of the most common ones was just like, what type of player are you and who do you play like? Like what NHL player you play like. So that was a pretty frequently asked question. And then there's a couple funny ones. I got asked dogs or cats. So the type of person I am. Of course, I'm dogs too.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
No, for sure. But, talk a little bit about, let's talk a little bit about Jack Gorniak. Let's talk about your game. Let's talk about the journey that you kind of have been on to kind of get to, the NHL. You were committed to University of Wisconsin, which is a great school for next year. When did you kind of decide or take it more seriously? Because, a lot of players want to play. They start playing at a young age. But was there a time where you took it more seriously? Pee Wee, Bantam?
Yeah, it was actually my first year of U18s with Team Wisconsin. When we played in the Elite League, it was called, which is based out of Minnesota. So that was kind of the first year that I started stepping up my game and realizing that, I could take on this career. So played with a lot of players that are already committed and on NHL's scouting list. So I kind of realized I need to step up my game and start training more, and that's kind of when it was like first became a dream for me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Are you holding your phone?
Yes, I am.
Okay, it's a bit shaky. That's why I'm just trying to.
Is that better?
Yeah, it is better. Perfect.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah. I got
no,
it.
I'm gonna edit it out. It's fine. But
Yeah.
5, 4, 3. Yep. And you mentioned the Combine. They asked kind of what player you kind of
right.
What were some of the players you grew up watching and really enjoyed watching growing up?
Of course, one player that I grew up watching was Brendan Gallagher. I always like to watch, of the Montreal Canadiens. Mm-hmm. That's kind of a player that I like to style my game after because he's a fast skater. He works hard, pressures the defense a lot, and that's kind of what I like to model my game after.
Mm-hmm. And it's safe to say that if any team that drafts you in the NHL, that's kind of what they're gonna get. What are they gonna get off the ice? Because everyone talks about on the ice, you know what I mean? How important, but off the ice is very important as well. You know what I mean? A lot of players are role models. They're kind of looked after, but they're kind of, people want to kind of be hockey players when they grow up. You just said Brendan Gallagher. Are you kind of prepared for that role as well?
Yes, I am. So like a big thing with off ice is I like taking my off ice training really serious. So that's one thing I take very seriously. So that's something they're going to get. And also just a positive, like fun person to be around on and off the ice. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of where I fit in the off ice role.
What I find really interesting, Jack, is the fact of the matter is the 104 players that were invited to the combine, you guys are kids. You guys are like teens. You guys are your journey hasn't even begun. One can make an argument. What I find interesting is, you hear a lot of scouting reports and people say, "Oh yeah, he has an NHL ready shot, or he has an NHL ready stride, or he plays physical like he's already in the AHL." I guess that's kind of just that just shows how amazing hockey development has been the last couple of years, where kids like yourself are, getting an NHL shot or getting an NHL stride. What do you kind of think has made the big difference in the last couple of years in terms of on-ice training?
Definitely one thing that I've heard from scouts is NHL ready speed. So I would say that's my biggest asset. So I like to use that. So with on-ice training, just working on my stride work and everything. And that's kind of what I prepared myself to develop as like my biggest asset.
Mm-hmm. But in general too, I mean, we're kind of seeing unbelievable elements of games from 17, 18-year-olds that you never saw a couple like 5-10 years ago, right? Where you have players that are able to play in the NHL at such a young age. Yeah, I just think like everyone says, just players just continue to get better and better. I think that's just due to just how much hockey has grown and how much it's almost like as technology grows, like players are getting better and better. They just can utilize more tools like coaches and on-ice work, and then I think that's why players are getting ready for the NHL sooner. You decided to commit to the University of Wisconsin. Talk a little bit about some of the things that were kind of factors in terms of you making the decision to commit to that school.
I would say the biggest factor with that was the coaching staff.
Yep.
So when I went on my visit, I got to meet all the coaches, and their coaching staff's unbelievable. They send guys to the next level, and they're one of the high-end coaching staffs. Then also their campus too. I got to tour around there, and it was a beautiful campus. It's a big campus too.
I find it very interesting because a lot of players that go to NCAA, I mean, you have two roles. You're an athlete, but you're also a student. You're a student athlete. So there's gonna kind of be areas where you're gonna have to focus on hockey, but school's gonna be in there as well. Have you kind of thought about how that, like, those kind of challenges and hurdles down the road a little bit, because you have to balance school and hockey?
Right. Yeah, that's definitely one of the bigger challenges with the NCAA route. But I've kind of been doing school and hockey my whole life as I stayed around here for hockey and school. So I think it's a challenge like I'm ready to take on. And the good thing with that is you get an education too, so you always have a backup plan for like post-career hockey, or if it doesn't work out. So that's always a nice thing to have.
So how have you balanced that in the past then? I'm interested in that. What were kind of the Jack Gorniak tactics to kind of balance school and hockey?
One thing is just work ahead of time. So always like get your schoolwork done before. That was always my thing growing up. But there's always definitely enough time to train and be on the ice. So the rink around us is actually open. It's almost open like 24/7. Nights where I'd get my homework done at 9 o'clock and go over to the rink at 9:30 or 10 and skate. So it's pretty challenging, but it just takes like a lot of dedication and putting time towards it.
At the NHL Combine, I'm sure there were some players that you kind of heard of or knew or met a few times. Were there some players that you met for the first time that you were really impressed with in certain of the fitness challenges that you were able to see?
Yeah. My partner for the fitness test was Jay O'Brien. So I met him. He was a really nice kid. Me and him did both pretty well in the challenge, the fitness test. So he was pretty impressive at the combine. And then, so that's one person I met. And also, yeah, that's about it because it was just kind of us two together. I didn't really look at the other groups ahead of me.
Absolutely. Well,
Right.
a lot of people are talking about the Wingate being kind of the hardest. Was that the hardest one?
Yes, I would definitely say so.
Okay.
That's kind of why they save it for last. Kind of takes it all out of you. So
How did you kind of prepare for that one?
Right now I work at, like, since my season was over, I've been working out at a gym called CrossFit Acceleration.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been just practicing some of the tests because I knew them prior to going into them. So getting on a bike and cranking up the, like, wattage on it and just preparing for it.
Absolutely.
Right.
There were so many different tests in there, and I'm sure you kind of look at. I mean, I can't even imagine. You know, the combination of you get your NHL, your interview schedule, and how many interviews did you end up having?
I had 14.
14 interviews. So you have the 14 interviews, and then you also have all these fitness tests and challenges that you have to get ready for. And it's just like a couple. I mean, was it a week or was it a couple of days worth?
It was a week. It was from Monday to Saturday.
So it was like, were you ready to kind of balance that? I mean, were the NHL interviews like a couple days apart from the challenges, or were they back to back?
It all depended on the schedule. I had somewhere that was back to back. So I'd say the most stressful part about the weekend is making sure you get to your stuff on time, because you never want to be late showing up to that. So I'd have to get in my dress clothes, go to an interview, and have my bag with my fitness clothes in and change into that quick and go right to that. Mm-hmm. So it was pretty tough to balance during that, but I made it work out.
Those are interviews, you know, with NHL teams, but there's also media interviews that are really important, Jack. You know, it's one of those things where junior hockey and NCAA hockey, even the USHL, Lincoln Stars, played a few games with them. There's kind of this unbelievable exposure bubble for junior hockey. I think the World Junior Hockey Championship is a component to that. Now kids have to have to act like professionals. Do you know what I mean by that?
Right. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think as you go up the hockey ranks, it just becomes more like a job rather than a hobby. Mm-hmm. So that's one of the biggest things I learned. So now you got to kind of treat it like a job once you're past like your high school stage and into the real life.
Which is like, to a lot of people, you know, that you know, in the 80s or 90s, you know, that played, it was probably a lot different than that. They didn't when they played junior, they weren't really in the limelight as much. But that has completely shifted, and I feel like it's a lot harder, and I feel like, do you think that kind of becomes, you know, on ice you have to prepare, you got to get bigger, faster, stronger to play in the NHL. But they also know that players playing, you know, in the NCAA or playing in the CHL are getting prepared for that off the ice, so the media training and everything, because it's a way bigger sphere than it used to be.
Yeah, I agree. And another thing with that is just like doing the right things off the ice. You never want to get in the wrong position where you're getting in trouble and doing something stupid. So I think that's grown a lot, especially with like social media developing. Mm-hmm. So players are they need to be more smarter on there. So that's something they need to take care of off ice too as well.
And social media is a big part of a hockey player. It's a double-edged sword. There's good things and bad things. What are some of the good things you like about it, and what are some of the things that you're not really a fan of?
Good thing is just checking on like what's going on, either with my friends or like in the sports world. So that's the good thing about it. And I think the bad thing about it is just you don't want to say the wrong thing to make, because coaches can check that anytime. So you don't want to say the wrong thing on there to make a coach mad or a person mad. So I'd say that's the bad thing about it, just being smart with it.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, I agree.
No, for sure. Well, Jack, I think we'll wrap up, but thank you so much for joining me on the show. I really appreciate it. I know it's a busy week for you.
Thanks for having me.
And and you know, like June 22nd, it's going to be pretty crazy day, to say the least.
Yes, it is. I'm excited for it, though.
Are you going down?
Very excited. Yes, I am.
Perfect.
Yep.
And, you know, like in terms of closing remarks, what is a team getting from you specifically if they draft you?
I'd say a fast, energetic forward who hunts pucks and just like creates a lot of havoc for the other team. So I'd say that's my role on ice. and then just hardworking, just positive person off ice too.
Absolutely. Where can people follow you on social media?
On Twitter or Instagram, it's at Jack_Gorniak.
Perfect.
So both of those. Yep.
Awesome. Well, I wish you all the best. June 22nd for the NHL Draft, Jack.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Well, this has been Popturnative, youtube.com/Popturnative for the video episodes, iTunes, Spotify, Castbox for the audio episodes, popturnative.com for other content as well. Until next time, this is Jack Gorniak and PD Beads signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popturnative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popturnative on YouTube. Be sure to like Popturnative on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.